was like, well, what do I do? And he's like, there's really no options. You just need to go on this medication. And I'm like, I don't want to go on medication. He's like, well, go home, do your research, and come back in 3 months, and we'll test you again. And if it's still high, then, I'm going to have to put you on this medication. So I went home that night and pretty much very naively became a vegan because I knew nothing about veganism. I don't even know if at the time I heard of the word before. I knew of vegetarianism. My wife was actually a vegetarian when we first started dating. And I had actually switched her back to eating meat because she gets really bad migraines. And at the time, as a meat eater, I was like, oh, you're missing all these nutrients, right? So that's why you're getting these migraines. Pretty much that night, I just went home. Anything that had cholesterol on the package, I just threw out. Took it out of the fridge, took it out of the cabinets, and went vegan pretty much overnight.
I always bring like a sweet potato chili, and a bag of Fritos. Like, people love that. It's easy to make, like those scoop Fritos with the chili, and you could add the cheese sauce if you have time. But I usually do like a really good hearty chili. I'll probably make it for the Super Bowl. So yeah, something like that. Or it's just like a black bean chili with peppers. It's your basic bean chili recipe. The only thing that I do is I just grate like a sweet potato in near the end, and it just kind of melts into the chili. It's really good. And it just adds that, thick potato-ness to the chili, and you can heat it up however you like it with the spice. And then you just bring a bag of Fritos, some guac, and you're done.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete podcast. I'm Jess, and I am your singular host today because my co-host and love, BJ, is actually preparing smoothie bowls because we are in the middle of Yogi Triathlete training camp. We're here in Carlsbad, California, and we just got done with beach yoga. We're on day 4 of 5. Everybody's pretty wrung out, and we thought it would be a perfect time to come together for a podcast because if you've listened to the show and you've heard the coaches on before, especially our post-race smackdowns, we like to do it when we're a little punchy. So that is today. And our stars of the show, we have Chef Lynda Layng, who is out here from New Jersey and I think has quickly fallen in love with Southern California, even though we've had not great weather for camp, and then perfect weather all at the same time. And then, of course, we've got the vegan-powered athlete, which is really the inspiration for this podcast. We've got Daniel Reintjes. Yes. I don't know why I stumble on that name, but I just want to make it perfect for him because I love him so much. And we've got Daniel here. We've got our athletes here. I didn't prep them on that one. And we're going to have a little Q&A. So I don't know what these guys have prepared, the questions that they're going to ask, but we're psyched to be here. We're grateful for all of you who are listening. And of course, if anything doesn't get covered in this podcast and you've got questions that are lingering, send us those questions and we will conquer them on another show. So why don't we start out with just a quick introduction from both of you, Daniel and Lynda. You guys can just introduce yourselves for those that may be new listeners and for our loyal listeners who love a reminder because they love you.
Hello, everyone. What a surprise thrown into the fire. I'm Daniel, so also known, a.k.a. vegan-powered athlete. Vegan burrito, etc., etc. So I've been with coaching now with YogiTriathlete for a year and a half, 2 years almost. Yeah, and I've been within the group, I think, in the community probably 3 years now, 3.5. So triathlon coaching. Also in 2019, I went through plant-based nutrition certification. And all things vegan, so vegan lifestyle, etc. So I've been on this endurance journey now for about 10 years. It'll be 10 years in March. Before that, I had no knowledge of any endurance at all. Didn't even have PE in high school. So, my life changed when I turned 40. So, yeah. It's great to be here. It's been so inspiring to see all the athletes here just push through barriers where they thought they couldn't go before. So exciting to see it.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everyone. My name is Lynda. It's been wonderful being here and meeting all of you this long weekend. I'm a recovering elementary school teacher turned chef and content creator. And it's an honor to do recipes and behind-the-scene podcast work for these guys and create vegan recipes that people really can enjoy, that they don't always have to eat a salad, that it can be delicious and also be vegan. And my background into all of this really started with my parents. I lost both of my parents when I was young to cancer and heart disease. And it really, pivoted me into this direction of health and how can I change course and still eat the food that I love and make it delicious, but also make it healthy. And I thank them for that parting gift that they left me with just learning about how to stay away from disease and preventative health. And it's my driving force today. And it's an honor to share that gift. So I've had a blast with you guys, and I can't wait to stay connected and do it all over again.
Thank you, Lynda. And yeah, Daniel, I forgot to tell you we're doing a podcast today. I told Lynda. I don't think I told anybody else. So thanks for showing up and always be willing to be dance in the fire with us. We appreciate it. And both of your stories are so inspirational, and they come from pain, and that's something that we've heard so many times throughout all the episodes on this show is just, purpose can come through pain and heartbreak. So when we stay awake in life and we navigate the challenges of life in a way where we take them not as punishments, but as learning opportunities, we really can step into who we were always meant to be in this life. Okay, well, I'm going to open it up now to the amazing athletes that are here who have questions for these guys. So whoever wants to go first, gently pick up that microphone and fire away.
Hi, I'm Liz. I know, Lynda, you already kind of started to answer this, but I would love to hear more detail from both of you on your decision on to become vegan. Like, what was that journey like? And then those first early steps on that transition from what you were doing before to being vegan.
Thanks, Liz. I went back and forth a lot. So I was never a huge meat eater. I grew up in an Irish family and it was just all meat and potatoes, but I just kind of worked around the plate, ate the meat a little bit, but I was never into it. And the first, I was listening to Rich Roll. I host Thanksgiving for my siblings every year. So I was like, let me try. It was Thanksgiving let me try this. And I had really given up most meat. It was just the cheese. Pizza, New York pizza was like, couldn't give that up. So I would go back and forth. And then one Thanksgiving, I think I was listening to Rich and Julie, and they were saying that, how can you make vegan dishes and just try it? And I said, let me just try to make all the sides vegan, not really tell my family. And I did. And I didn't even tell my husband. I just said, that moment, that Thanksgiving, I just said, let me see if I can do this just with myself. And that's when it started. And that was about 16 years ago. But, that back and forth, it's okay. You just gotta ride that wave and be there. So if a little cheese slips in your life or dairy, just keep trying.
All right, let's see if I could get through this. So 3/13/13 was the start of my journey. Sorry. I haven't really talked much about it lately, but that day, my mom had a massive heart attack. Sorry. So about 9 months after that happened, I kind of went into like a really bad depression. Was drinking a lot, just beer. I never got into the hard alcohol. Pretty much every night. I mean, I was drinking, I think I got up to a 12-pack a night. It was just, I gained so much weight, more than I've ever weighed in my life. So I was close to 200 pounds at that point. Went to my doctor. He said, you got high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I'm going to put you on medication that you'll have to take for the rest of your life. And I was like, I thought I lived healthy, Up until that point, I thought I ate, quote, clean. I wasn't really a big meat eater as well, but did eat a lot of chicken. Never really got into seafood. So, I thought I was doing all the right things. I was relatively active. I was in retail at the time. I was on my feet, in retail management. So I was on my feet for 15, 16 hours a day. And I had a gym membership that I went to 2 or 3 times a year. So I was like, well, what do I do? And he's like, there's really no options. You just need to go on this medication. And I'm like, I don't want to go on medication. He's like, well, go home, do your research, and come back in 3 months, and we'll test you again. And if it's still high, then, I'm going to have to put you on this medication. So I went home that night and pretty much very naively became a vegan because I knew nothing about veganism. I don't even know if at the time I heard of the word before. I knew of vegetarianism. My wife was actually a vegetarian when we first started dating. And I had actually switched her back to eating meat because she gets really bad migraines. And at the time, as a meat eater, I was like, oh, you're missing all these nutrients, right? So that's why you're getting these migraines. So pretty much that night, I just went home. Anything that had cholesterol on the package, I just threw out. Took it out of the fridge, took it out of the cabinets, and went vegan pretty much overnight, which in turn meant, no animal products at all. So that's how my journey started. And then at the same time, I started running for the first time ever. Never ran. Like I mentioned before, I didn't have PE in high school because I had back problems. So I started running in a local half marathon. So this all was about a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. And in March, the beginning of March, the next year, there was a half marathon locally. And I thought that would be cool to get to a half marathon. And it happened to fall on the same anniversary as my mother's passing. So I trained for 3 months to get to that half marathon. And then at that point I was hooked, even though I could not walk after my knees blew up like size of balloons. But I was hooked, and I got all the questions like, well, how do you get your protein? How can you be an endurance athlete and get enough protein? And I was like I said before, very naive about the veganism thing, but it never seemed to be a problem for me. I wasn't an athlete in the past, so I guess the whole protein thing wasn't driven into my head that you had to get so much protein and, do all these things. So it was kind of an easy transition, and I have no comparison of prior to. So, so that's how I got into both veganism and endurance sports pretty much at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's not easy to talk about our traumas, and when we do, sometimes they come up. And so you're always so generous and honest, like all of our guests on this show. Just amazing. So thank you both for sharing that. Next question.
This is Kai. I've got a really hard-hitting question for Daniel, which is, what goes into the perfect burrito?
thought you were going to ask about the beard. I was like, which started at the same time as well. The beard started, the hair kind of grew out. I always had short hair and did not like the hair touching my ears. And I had to always, like, if it touched my ears, I had to cut it. So, and then the beard, I always kind of had a goatee out of high school, but same thing. I always kept it short, didn't like it long. And so it all kind of like, it was just a reminder to myself every time I looked in the mirror that I was on a new journey. And I would leave the beard until it just started bugging me, and it just hasn't bothered me at this point. But back to burritos, since I love burritos. I am very simple. So, I mean, I think my favorite burritos are probably, I do like just basic burritos throughout the week, which is just like, like I get frozen bell peppers and just saute those up or just heat them up. And then I'll throw black beans in and then just throw a few little spices in, add some avocado, and I wrap it up. So that's probably the simplest, best burrito I could do. There is one that takes a little more time that kind of the same, but I will chop up like zucchini, the red bell peppers, black beans, corn, and kind of almost make it almost like a little stew, but not as drainy as a stew, I guess. And then obviously always add avocado. So I think avocado makes the burrito perfect.
How about you, Lynda? Do you have a favorite burrito?
I like the crunch. Like, I like to heat it up in the pan, like make it. Basic recipe, whatever I have on hand, black beans, avocado, lettuce. I like greens in there. And then same thing, peppers, whatever I have, clean out the fridge. And then I like the crunch, like a crunch wrap almost. So like I'll toast it up, and something about that kind of just does me in, like the good crunch and warm.
I have a question. How do you get the crunch on the tortilla?
So you can just heat up like a saute pan and put the made burrito on the saute pan or frying pan, medium heat. If you have a cast iron skillet, it'll get really great. You can put it on that. And then you can just put like a pot lid over it to kind of smush it. So it can really get that crunch and brown on the bottom, and then wait a few minutes, check it, see if it's toasty enough, and then flip it over again and just smash it with the pot lid or another heavy plate or something like that. And you get the good crunchy brown sides.
Nice. Mystery revealed. I've always wondered about that, how you get that, because that's what I think makes the perfect burrito. Okay, who's next?
This is Jeanette, and I'm going to stay on the food trend here. And we're eating smoothie bowls that BJ made that are amazing. And he said that we're putting in it granola that is YogiTriathlete granola. So I want to know a little bit more about that because it's really delicious.
The YogiTriathlete granola. Where is my husband to tell us about the YogiTriathlete granola? Well, here's the real story about the YogiTriathlete granola. I tried for years to figure out a way to make granola where it had, like, it wasn't getting soggy, where it had the crunch. And when we put out our first cookbook, I didn't really have it yet, so I didn't put it in there. And I was trying all these different things, of course, to make it vegan and to make it as healthy as possible. So we came up with the original YogiTriathlete granola, which is we share those recipes like in our Patreon community. And I don't have that pulled up right now, but the original recipe that I created also included dried blueberries, and what else was in there? There was other things, like I think dried cranberries and just a little bit more pop of flavor And then BJ started making the granola and stripped it down to what you guys are experiencing right now, which is basically the base granola, which is delicious. And then he adds coconut in it, which was all a part of the recipe, but I would add in other things on top, like dried fruits and stuff, but that's not always his favorite. He just wants, like you, Lynda, he wants the crunch. So this recipe has chia seeds in it. It has maple syrup. Oh, Daniel's got it right here for me. 30-minute homemade granola. Here's the original recipe. So it's rolled oats, flaxseed, hemp hearts, chia seeds, coconut sugar. So that's how we got some sweet in it. Pumpkin seeds, walnuts, maple syrup. We used to use coconut oil. We're not using coconut oil in it currently. That batch wasn't. And then I have dried blueberries, cranberries, and shredded coconut. And so you mix all that good stuff together, pop it in a 350 oven, or 300 oven actually, for about, he's got it at 28 minutes, which he has found in our oven is the perfect amount to cook it, where it's gonna have crunch, but it's not gonna get burnt. And he also does it on parchment paper as well. So he took the recipe I created and just kind of stripped it down because he just really wants the crunch. And then in the smoothie bowls today, we're also adding cacao nibs and goji berries, which are some of our favorite. Anyone else?
Hi, this is James, and my question for Lynda and Daniel was about navigating like blended families, and by blended I mean like you're vegan, maybe a lot of your family is not vegan, whatnot. How do you go about like sharing in a way that's constructive and isn't preachy and, you know, all that kind of stuff? So that's kind of my question. Thanks.
Such a good question.
I love this question. You know, I think I've said to a few of you here this week, I don't broadcast that much that I'm vegan. I just kind of sneak in and come in with casseroles, salads, desserts. We just had the holidays, so I just show up. I show up with food for myself and to share. And I don't even mention, most of them know that I'm vegan now. But I just kind of share. It's not, as all of you know, it's not easy. I was just at Christmas with a lot of meat in front of me. But everyone's on their own journey. So, you know, there's no judgment. People are where they are, and you meet them there. So I just bring food to share, and people really usually, you know, it's usually done and gone. I usually have to make a lot to share. And sometimes that can be frustrating if, you know, like if you're tired from working and you're like, oh, now I've got to make 3 lasagnas to bring for Christmas Eve, Christmas, and whatever. But, you know, it's nice to share and to give, because usually when we give, we get a lot back. So I think I don't, unless people ask me, I don't really say, you know, you get the funny answers like, oh, you still eat fish though, right? Or, you know, and it's just like, no, I don't eat any animals. But I really don't get involved in the protein questions and the, you know, health questions. I just keep it really to the food or the recipe. And then I'll let them talk.
Yeah, I think I've learned early on, my family got tired of me trying to preach. So, you know, and that's kind of where the VPA, the Vegan Powered Athlete, came from, was because not just my family, but most people out in public don't want you preaching. So it was a way for me to still spread or bring awareness to the message, but not necessarily through my words, but my actions. So, but with family, it's like Lynda said, do what you can to share. So whenever we'll share like food, because once they find out that the food tastes amazing, usually they're open to trying more of it. But yeah, we just went through the holidays and same thing. The text messages were going back and forth and what everybody wanted to make. And it was just kind of like gritting the teeth. But this year I kind of just threw out there, hey, there's a lot of alternatives now. Who's open to like changing the way we have always done things and just try something new with a substitute instead of making, that casserole with butter, use a vegan butter or plant-based butter. So it's like taking little steps like that. And it was really successful this year where most of my family was more receptive to it that way than like it has to be vegan. So yeah, I think just, bringing your own food. Sometimes you have to eat beforehand if you're not able to make something to be sure that you get, a meal in. But what I have found, once you kind of open that door a little bit, they're more receptive to trying more things later on or new things later on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on what Lynda said. I'm just kind of jumping in here and answering it as well, because I think this is a really important one. What I would do is, and it serves a couple of purposes. I would just go home to my family and I would cook for them. And I would just be in service. And when I say it serves a couple of purposes, family is going to be the ones that are going to push your buttons for the longest on your time here on earth. And so you would just go into the kitchen and I would just be in service and I would just really be mindful about the energy that I was putting into the food and, serving them love. And it was also a nice, safe space if, old cycles and patterns were starting to surface. And I just kind of claimed that role and started to just make delicious food, like let the food speak for itself. And, my mom turned vegan when she was in her 80s and got off of medication in her 80s that she had been on for 30 plus years. And not because BJ and I ever said you should eat like this and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this and you should do this. I would just say, hey, I got dinner tonight. I'll cook dinner. And then I cooked one dinner and they said, whoa, this is really good. And I feel light and I don't feel like I need a nap and my pants don't hurt. And then I would say, oh, well, I've got a great pancake recipe. I'll make breakfast. And so you kind of put yourself into service and you just let the food speak for itself. And one particular experience, which was really profound, is when BJ and I raced Ironman Cozumel. And my sister and brother-in-law came on that trip. And my sister was very heavy into CrossFit and eating paleo. And she said, well, I'm just going to let you cook. I said, yeah, we're good. Like, we'll go to the store. We'll just cook. That's fine. And so essentially she just ate vegan for the week that we were there and has been vegan ever since. And that was in 2015 because she just loved the food and she loved how she felt. And, yeah, so I've found that just letting the food speak for itself is a really great way to spread the good word.
I think it's important to meet them where they're at and remember, like, most of us were there before. And there's something about our journey that switched the light bulb and we changed, or we made the change. So just remember that a lot of times they just don't know. So, if they're open to learning, that's when you can be, talk more about it and not be so preachy. But like Lynda said, everybody's on their own journey and people make the change for different reasons. And I think that's important to just kind of meet them where they're at. Because like I said before, I was very naive. I had no idea that's, is that animal products were causing the disease that was within my family. So until, I learned, I would have just continued to go on, eating like I thought was what I thought was healthy. So,
Yeah, it's a great question, James. I think that will speak to a lot of people. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Shannon, and I love to cook, and in fact, I love to cook more than when I was cooking for my kids growing up. It was basically a starch, a vegetable, and a meat, right? So what would give me some good starter recipes for people? Not even a recipe, like what did you guys eat when you started eating plant-based?
So I don't know how I found it, but I found this website called foodgawker.com. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. So, and all I really did, so the unique thing about this website is you could put in whatever you have. Like if I had a whole bunch of zucchini in my fridge, and I was like, what can I make with zucchini? Like, you could just put zucchini in the search bar, and it'll bring up all these recipes with zucchini. Back then, they didn't have a vegan tab, but now they do. But I find even when I go to it now, I won't use the vegan tab because it seems like the recipes are limited. I'll just put it in and then just eliminate the animal product or the protein that they're putting into it, or use tofu or something else in its place. But at the time when I was using it, I would just take the meat out of whatever recipe it was, and either just eat it that way or add a different protein into it. So that helped my journey along.
I have to think back. I love to cook, so I enjoyed finding all the recipes and trying new recipes. So I would spend a lot of time just, trying different recipes. Today, it looks a lot different. It's quick, easy, potatoes, vegetables, whatever I have in there. It could be like that handful of spinach because I don't have time to make a salad, or just, grab out of the clam pack of greens or whatever I have for the side of the plate. And then usually a lot of beans. I usually have just a pantry full of beans. It's not fancy. It's just simple. And like we did in a week kitchen, we have sauces. So like, the cheese sauce or a barbecue sauce or, a nut-based sauce, or what did I make last week before I left? Like a cilantro yogurt sauce to throw on things. So I think that's always nice to have in the fridge to make a meal pop. Because I think we're all just so tired after the end of the day. You don't really feel like creating all that stuff. So just keeping it simple and utilizing your pantry and your freezer and what you've already bought in your fridge. You can come up with some really just simple things, but that are tasty.
Yeah, the one thing I've found about like cooking easy with whole food plant-based is like you can't screw it up. It's so hard to screw it up. You just quinoa, potatoes, some vegetables, you're done. So many times we'll throw on like Trader Joe's vegan Caesar with some nooch, like on a grain bowl. So really, really simple stuff. It's so hard to screw it up. I also like to get, a lot of times in supermarkets now, they'll have like big containers of like already chopped butternut squash or sweet potatoes. And I'm a big fan of buying convenience. Like I will spend money for convenience because the potatoes will sit on top of the fridge, or they're already cut, they're already peeled, throw them in the oven, on a hot oven for 20 or so minutes. And then you can just have them in the fridge to throw on salads or to heat up again for another meal. No. Who's next? Question? Yes.
Hi, this is Justin. So at camp, some of us are on vacation, quote unquote. So my question is, how do you navigate the opportunities for people who are staying at a hotel to eat plant-based, and like your number one tip or your go-to routine?
That's a good idea.
So you're saying when you're staying at a hotel, like what?
Yeah, if you're traveling and you don't have a full kitchen or anything like that.
So for the most part, when I travel, I try to find a kitchen for that specific reason, because I like to cook myself. I rarely go out to eat. And like I mentioned before, I'm very simple in the food that I do eat. But this last year with traveling to some races, I couldn't get a kitchen, but at least there was a microwave. So I'm thinking about like Lake Placid. I did this, what was it, tater tot. It was a veggie, so it was a veggie burger, tater tots, and guacamole, and I rolled it up in a tortilla. And I made that out of the microwave. And I've also done pasta, so I do pasta for all my races, kind of old school like that, I guess. But I've been able to still do pasta in a hotel room with just a microwave. By microwaving the pasta, I'll use zucchini and bell peppers in the sauce, and I make my pasta dinner before a race in the microwave. So it is possible to still race an Ironman out of a microwave.
When we drive to hotels, when we're driving to races and we're staying at a hotel, we actually bought a little hot plate. And so we'll bring a saucepan and we'll bring the pancake pan. So we're making pancakes in the hotel room. We're making rice and our pre-race dinner, which is basically just white rice and avocado. And then, of course, Clark, if we're driving, Clark is with us. And Clark eats oatmeal for breakfast. And so we'll make his oatmeal. And then another thing is most hotels have, like, breakfast available, which is typically not vegan, but they'll have bananas, they'll have oranges, they'll have apples, all of that stuff you can throw in your granola. Your oatmeal in the morning or your granola. And then they also typically have fridges, so a small little thing of plant milk, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that kind of covers it. I would say, depending if you're flying or driving, I like to do overnight oats, preset kind of little jars. I've been known to bring the air fryer on the road because the air fryer kind of can crisp up all those things. I don't really love soggy microwave. I like a crunchy. So I'll bring pre-cooked potatoes, my air fryer, lots of dates, lots of, dried snacks like nuts. Coffee's a big one for me. So I always make sure I have my, my creamer or oat milk. Or they make powdered, if you can't take the liquid on a plane, obviously, just take a powdered creamer. So, and then the fruit, usually in a hotel, you make it work. Those little packets of oatmeal or even the little microwavable oatmeal cups are good.
Yeah, those are great tips, you guys. Any more questions for these guys?
What's your favorite go-to dish for if you have to go to a potluck? It's something that's not too complicated to make. They can feed a lot of people. That's That's
a good one. There's so many. I always bring a sweet potato chili, chili and a bag of Fritos. People love that. It's easy to make, those scoop Fritos with the chili, and you could add the cheese sauce if you have time. But I usually do a really good hearty chili. I'll probably make it for the Super Bowl. So yeah, something like that. Or it's just a black bean chili with peppers. It's your basic bean chili recipe. The only thing that I do is I just grate a sweet potato in near the end, and it just kind of melts into the chili. It's really good, and it just adds that thick potato-ness to the chili, and you can heat it up however you like it with a spice, and then you just bring a bag of Fritos, some guac, and you're done. Usually goes.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of top of my head was a stew or a soup as well. I'm just thinking of the holidays, and that's what we did this year was a split pea soup. Probably because it reminds me of my mother as well. She always had the best split pea soup ever. And then my wife says now that her recipe was the recipe that's on the back of the split pea package. But yeah, split pea soup. As well as a stew, a really hearty stew with some potatoes, lentils, that kind of thing, is usually when I have to go to like a bigger gathering, I'll do something like that. That's real simple. The split pea soup that we did is just in the crock pot too, so it's like takes like 10 minutes to like whip up and then sits all day and cooks for you. So yeah.
Yum. We just had smoothie bowls and now I just want chili. All right. Who else has a question for these guys? Oh, head coach is coming in. Hey, Beach. Thanks for the smoothie bowls.
Oh, my pleasure. So you may have already covered this, but when is a good time, or how do you determine when to use real foods like sweet potatoes and potatoes, like out on a ride or run, versus when are we going to use those quick sugars to get in? And what are other types of things that we can use besides the potatoes and sweet potatoes?
I think this is so individual because of everybody's stomachs and where they're at with the food that they put in their body. But obviously, it's like sweet potatoes and that type of thing is going to be longer energy sources versus the quick fructose kind of sugars that'll give you that quick hit. So depending on, what kind of event you're doing, most triathlons, I would say even for Ironmans, you kind of want that energy level to be always high. So that's why we're usually just like constantly hitting that the fructose and the gels and the carb mixes to keep the energy level going. So I think when you get, I think the ultra running crew tends to lean more towards real foods than what I've seen in triathlon. And that's, I used to puree like sweet potatoes and put like pineapple juice in it and put it in those the little flasks when I was running, trail running. So that'll give you longer sustained energy. And I think some other options for real food, dates are really popular. Will give you that quick sugar. I mean, obviously some nuts are really good as well, but you don't want to do too many nuts. But a lot of the bars and stuff you'll see, they'll have usually like cashews, but that's also a longer sustained energy source. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say play around with it. Have fun. Definitely, everyone's so individual. So whatever works best for people. What was that like chia seed drink that people would like shake up for? Yeah, a little chia seed like drink mixture. And have fun and explore like what works for you. Maybe even make a little log of like how your stomach felt, or, so what foods work best. I think the more information we have on that, the better we'll be able to fine tune what our best, fuel sources are for long runs or rides. Keeping it simple.
All right.
All right, I'll go again. I need to ask. I want to know, especially in my experience, I like to get onto one thing and just have that one thing all the time.
I told them how you strip down the granola recipe.
Yeah. So now it's only that way or it's no way. I don't make it. So can you guys, both Daniel and Lynda, can you guys like speak to how you've worked with people, transitioning to that curiosity about eating more plant-based and not getting so fixated on, I need, the same meal over and over again, getting the same, nutrients, where you can begin to maybe mix it up a little bit and start to add a few things here and there. How do you guys approach that?
I just offer a whole list of different things, for them to choose. Usually if I'm cooking for someone and I'm like, okay, here's some ideas. What speaks to you, and let them decide, which way, or I'll just bring over something new and have them try it. And then, it usually will broaden their horizons to most people. And I usually, my front, usually it's dessert or something sweet or like something like a good appetizer or something that gets them in, not like a really healthy salad. It's just something something delicious and yummy. But I want to go back to that, like what to bring over, Liz question. A chili might take a little bit of time, but something that's really simple is like a ziti, like a pasta with ready-made, like Trader Joe's pesto, jar sauce. Pasta's quick to make. Maybe throw in some veggies that you have already on hand, and that's like an easy like bring over dish to someone's house. Feeds a lot, and people usually like it. Or my other one, if I don't have time to cook, is usually a platter of veggie sushi. I usually bring to someone's house. That way, people like it, and I have something to eat. Like just like avocado rolls or cucumber rolls, or most Asian places will make like a big platter of it. And it's so pretty. So usually I'll bring that over and people love it. Yeah, or any grocery store that has sushi, you can just make your own platter with a couple of different rolls.
I think I usually try to just offer up suggestions on things that they may have never tried, that they can also use while eating something that they're familiar with. So, I mean, like I said before, I wasn't a big meat eater, but I also wasn't a big vegetable eater. So I hated vegetables, right, growing up. Everything's been so expanded for me now. But just things like quinoa, where it was like, I think I was vegan for 5 years and never heard of quinoa. And now it's like almost like a staple in my house. But farro, stuff like that. So just getting them to maybe try one new thing, either every week or every month, something new, just adding something in, And if they say they don't like it, that's kind of a challenge. It's like, okay, how can we work this in? And what I did when I started, because I didn't like, some of it was just texture-wise, I didn't like it. So it was chopping it even smaller so that I didn't really have to chew it that long. So it's small tricks like that, as well as just adding something new and just reminding them that, our taste buds replace themselves every 3 days. So it's like, if you can just stick to something for a week, for 5 days, 5 days, chances are you're going to like that new item. So, whatever it is, broccoli or zucchini or bell peppers. But we hear it all the time, like, I don't like vegetables. Well, give it a try. Try it a different way. Cook it a different way. Maybe steam it instead of roasting it, or roast it instead of steaming it. Whatever we can do to kind of add that in. And then over time, what you'll find is that your body will start craving those things versus what you're replacing it with. So.
All right. I think we have time for one more question. Kai, bringing it home.
So, question for both of you is, what do you see in terms of, if you look at the people that you've worked with, the sort of challenges, the sort of the big hurdles that people that you've worked with have faced in terms of adopting a plant-based diet? And then recommendations in terms of don't overthink it, or how to sort of break through those challenges, if that makes any sense. Question for both of you.
Yeah, I think staying consistent. I think, it's easy when I'm bringing over the food. It's all pretty and made and done. But then they're with their family who's not vegan, or they're on a business trip, or they're celebrating their, mother's birthday. So things come up and then they slip off. But that's okay. I think you're going to ebb and, come back and forth. So I think, the more times you can keep coming back and just, making yourself accountable, having someone to guide you along the way, like we always talk about here with community, is so important. and know what your why is, I guess. Why are you doing this? For me, it's never too far behind why I'm doing this. And if I do, I do fall off course. If I do, I have to say, okay, like I can feel it first of all, and then it's like get back on track, but know what works for you. Maybe it's calling, someone to just get you back on track, or what do they say too? That you're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. So who are you around? Some of us are not around a lot of vegans. That's why it's so nice here to be surrounded by so many of them. But, who are you hanging out with? Because they have a lot of influence over you. But stay consistent.
Lynda kind of stole mine, but it was the why. Like, that's the biggest challenge, is that their why is not strong enough. It's like, why do they want to be vegan? Is it for health, environment, the animals? If their why is strong enough, they'll find a way to do it. Just like we've talked about in training, if it's important to you, you find a way to do it. So that's the biggest challenge. And then I think the second is family, definitely. I hear all the time, I can't go vegan because my wife and kids aren't vegan. And that does pose a challenge, but then again, it goes back to that why. So why do you want to be vegan? So if your why is strong enough, you're going to find a way to do it.
Absolutely. And you don't have to wait for a tragedy in your life to make the change. If you want to make the change, you gotta want to make the change. Thank you both so much for sharing so generously and giving us great tips. That's going to span well beyond this piece of the schedule of YogiTriathlete Camp. We're so grateful to all of you guys, Liz, James, Shannon, Justin, Kai, Jeanette. You guys have been a dream team this camp this week. We're so grateful. And it's not done yet. We are all going to be going to the Plot in Oceanside, California tonight to destroy the menu, which is typically what we do on day 4 of the camp. It's like the biggest event of all the events. But if you guys are interested in getting more of Lynda and Daniel, Daniel just launched a super cool subscription program through the Vegan Powered Athlete Nutrition, Vegan Powered Nutrition. So please check that out. That is new offering in the world, and we want that to expand greatly. And then Lynda is our in-house nutrition coach with YogiTriathlete, and she will work with you anyway, cooking classes, consultations, recipes, meal planning, whatever it is that you need. So hopefully everybody took something away from this podcast. I know I certainly did. I definitely want to shred sweet potatoes over my next chili batch. And again, if we left anything out, just drop us a message and we will conquer that question on our next podcast, our next O Show, which Beej and I are going to be recording soon, this week, probably. All right. Thank you, everybody. We are so grateful for this audience. We're so grateful for this live audience right here. Thanks to all of our, Thanks to our Patreon community. There's no podcast without our Patreon community. There's no podcast without Lynda Layng. And there's no podcast without John Summerford, who is the guy behind all of this beautiful audio. He produces our show every week, and we're so grateful for this entire team. Thank you so much, everyone. Peace out.